institution, Catholic Church, is rejected as anti-religious slander. The well-documented story of how the Catholic Church as institution protects pedophilia in its own ranks is another good example of how, if God exists, then everything is permitted to those who legitimize themselves as his servants. What makes this protective attitude towards pedophilia so disgusting is that it is not practiced by tolerant hedonists, but to add insult to injury by the very institution which poses as the moral guardian of society. Now you will say, and I agree with this immediate counter-question, but what about the Stalinist communist mass killings? What about the extra-legal liquidations of the nameless millions in the Soviet Union? But I think it is easy to see how these crimes were always justified by their own ersatz God, a God that failed, as Ignazio Silone, one of the great disappointed communists, called it. They had their own God, which is why everything was permitted then. In other words, the same logic as that of religious violence applies here. Stalinist communists do not perceive themselves as hedonist individuals abandoned to their freedom. No, they perceive themselves as instruments of historical progress, of a higher necessity which pushes humanity towards next stage of communism. And it is this reference to their own absolute and to their own privileged relationship to this absolute, which permits them to do whatever they want or consider necessary. This is why the moment threats appear in this ideological protective shield, the way of what they, the Stalinist communists did, becomes unbearable to many individual communists, since they have to confront their acts as their own, with no cover up in the higher religion of history. This is why, after Khrushchev's 56 speech denouncing Stalin's crimes, many cadre committed suicide. They did not learn anything new during that speech. You know, when they say, oh my God, we learned what horrors were happening in the Soviet Union, they were, of course, lying. All the facts were more or less known to them. They were just deprived of the historical legitimization of their crimes in the communist historicals' absolute. So, to get rid of God, is this simply our task? Maybe to get rid of God as the big R, in the sense of higher authority covering up for us, as it were, but definitely not to get rid of the figure of the other. Not only the dynastical other, another human being, his face, but why not even the animal other? Jacques Derrida, of whom I am otherwise rather critical, reported on a kind of primordial scene from his life. After awakening, he went naked to his bathroom where his cat followed him. Then the awkward moment occurred. He was standing in front of the cat, which looked at his naked body. Unable to endure this situation, he did something. Put a towel around his waist, chasing the cat outside, entering the shower. The cat's gaze stands for the gaze of the other, an inhuman gaze, but for this reason, all the more, the other's gaze in all its abyssal impenetrability. Seeing oneself being seen by an animal is an abyssal encounter of the other's gaze, since precisely because we should not simply project onto the animal our inner experience. Something is returning the gaze which is impenetrable, radically other. The entire history of philosophy is based, perhaps, upon the disavowal of such an encounter. I remember a photo of a cat after it was submitted to some lab experiment in a centrifuge. I saw this photo 30 years ago. A cat, its bones half broken, its skin half hairless, its eyes helplessly looking into the camera. This is the gaze of the other, disavowed not only by philosophers, but by humans as such. Even Levinas who wrote so much about the helpless other's face as the original sign of ethical responsibility, explicitly denied that an animal's face can function like this. One of the few honorable exceptions was here Jeremiah Bentham, who made a simple proposal. Instead of asking, can animals reason and think, can they talk? All these humanist enterprises, but then you triumphantly say, no, they can't. They just change signs, they don't really talk and so on. We should, according to Bentham, rather ask, can they suffer? Human industry alone is continuously causing immense suffering on animals, which is systematically disavowed. We know about it, but we pretend not to know. Not only laboratory experiments, but special regimes, for example, to produce eggs and milk, turning artificial light on and off to shorten the day, use of hormones, and so on. Pigs, which are half-blind and barely able to walk, just fat and fast to be slaughtered, and so on and so on. The majority of those who visit a chicken factory can no longer eat chicken, and all of us know what goes on there, but this knowledge has to be neutralized, again, so that we can act as if we do not know. One of the ways to facilitate this ignorance is the Cartesian notion of animal-machine. Cartesians, already in the 17th century, were warning people against compassion with animals. They claimed that when we see an animal emitting sounds of pain, we should always bear in mind that these sounds do not express any real inner feeling. Since animals do not have souls, these are just sounds generated by a complex mechanism of muscles, bones, fluids, and so on. You can clearly see the origin of these sounds through dissection. The problem is that the notion of animal-machine has to end up in Lamettrie's notion of l'homme machine, of a human man as a machine. If one is fully committed, a fully committed neurobiologist, exactly the same claim can be made about sounds and gestures emitted by humans when they are tortured. There is no separate interior domain of soul where pain is really felt. Such sounds and gestures are simply produced by the complex neurobiological mechanisms that constitute the human body. So, back to the gaze of the cat. What is the perplexity a human looking at a cat sees in the cat's gaze? Is the perplexity aroused by the monstrosity of the human being itself? What if what we see in this abyss of the other's gaze is our own abyss? Or, to quote Racine, a wonderful line from Jean Racine's Phèdre, dans ses yeux je vois ma perte